Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Matt Willson Weekly Kickoff Show. I'm Mike Daggs. He's Gerald Smith. We've got Week 13 of SFL action coming right up. We've got a lot of stuff we want to talk about tonight, Gerald. So let's jump right into it. Let's start with our Week 12 recap. Started off on Friday night. Arizona and DC went head-to-head. Arizona came back to life. They had dropped 3 straight, but then just destroyed DC 37-7. We actually flexed that game into the Friday night show, and oops.
We should have did some sort of a mid-game flex. That's what we called it for now.
Flex something else. Well, we'll have to see if that's an option for next time. Just flex it right out of the segment. Be like, listen, we got to the half. We changed our mind. Let's bring in another couple of teams. I don't think that's a thing. We already got a $9.99 super chat. That's pretty cool. So Skippy says, I'm here to watch Gerald swallow a bomb pop. How did they find out about that?
I don't know how. Did that get mentioned?
Well,
mentioned somewhere.
Not publicly, but well, we'll have to revisit that one, Skippy. Okay, well, anyway, that threw me off. Let's keep recapping.
It threw me off too. I'm like, is today the day? Like,
apparently the Week 14 show is. See how many super chats we can get, and Gerald will deep throat bomb pops on our next show. Wow. His daughter is within earshot too, so that's fun. Anyway,
oh my God, that just.
Well, I'm just saying, Nashville, they did something that very few of us have done. I'm going to try to get back on track. They beat Canton 17-10, serving Canton with their second loss. Your Revs, they shut out Queen City in a 33-0 rout. And it also, that win made you a new addition to the playoff picture, which we'll see in just a little bit. I can't get that image out of my head quite yet about the bomb pop. Oh, boy, trying to move on. The East Division, that got even tighter than it was the week prior. Florida at 7-2, every other team at 6-4. Fort Worth, they got a win over Bossier City, much to my dismay. Hacker. And that keeps him in play for the South Division title, although Aztecs still ahead. Mexico City narrowly escaping defeat. I won't even say that we beat Houston. We escaped losing to Houston 21-10 on a last-second field goal that was missed.
I thought it was done.
I thought it was done. I was walking out of the room. I'm like, it
was wide left, I believe it was.
Can't even watch this. Yeah, wide left. First time I've ever been happy about a field goal going wide. And then with all that craziness, it brings us to Week 13. So let's take a first look at the most updated playoff picture. Fox High went telling me to focus. I'm trying, but there's so many things going on right now. Let's bring up that playoff picture. Let's put that up on the screen. The Week 13 playoff picture now is what this is. So we've got Arizona in first. Back up in first place, Minnesota at second. Canton falls down to third. The Aztecs, we were in fifth last week. Now we're up back in fourth. So those top 4 teams above the gold line, currently the teams that would have a wild card bye. And then you have 8 through 12. Those are the teams that would be in the wild card round. Now, I know you picked on this graphic because I even just said 8 through 12. It's 5 through 12. Now, so there's a reason for it.
Yeah, there is a reason for it. And I was educated just through because I watch our wonderful commissioner, Cameron Irvine. Yep. The reason why it's laid out where it is, the 5 will play to 12, the 6 will play to 11, the 7 play to 10, the 8 play to 9. It's a thing of genius. I apologize to Mr.
It's almost like he knew what he was doing.
Graphic board maker, because that's genius.
It makes a lot of sense.
It makes a ton of sense. So it's stuff. But the beauty of this thing is that somebody decided to include my Revs at the 15th spot. Well, first time we've ever been included in any kind of a playoff talk. Don't know if we'll quite get there because we have some tough games coming up. But
there are some tough games, but you could still finish 7-5. There's, technically speaking, there are teams that have 6 losses that are not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs quite yet. So with 5 losses, if you win out, you do have a chance at making the playoffs. And we'll talk about some of those as we do our breakdown. But you got 5 through 12 there. And in that 5 through 12, you have the entire East Division still. I thought for sure after last week it would shake it up a little bit.
You said it wasn't going to happen. I was like, I looked at it after the week ended and I'm like, wait, 6-4, and there's a 7-2 right now in Florida leading the division. So I'm like, this is wild and crazy stuff.
Yep. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So so that's your updated look at the playoff picture, and we'll break down some of these teams here and talk about how things might shape up after this week. And Yeah, let's talk about the Week 13 schedule, what games we've got coming up. First, we have a game that will help shape that East Division a little bit more. We've got Charleston at Atlanta. Flex this one into the Friday night primetime spot because this is a primetime matchup.
Definitely.
These two teams. We'll break that one down later on. So getting into our Saturday slate, it gets kicked off right off the bat heading into this week. We got some great games. The Friday one's great. The first two games on Saturday, great as well. At 6:30, we've got Fort Worth at Canton with Jacob Clear and Eddie Gage. You know, Canton looking a little bit more human this season. They've got a couple of losses now. Still a great team. Fort Worth, as much as it pains me to say, powerhouse team right there. Listen, I called them a contender. You know, when we did our pretenders and contenders show, called them a contender. They are a contender. They're doing a fantastic job. They have just as good a shot as anybody at beating Canton this week in Canton's house. We'll see how that one plays out. We've got at 6:45 Bossier City at Mexico City. So the South Division could be decided early on here in that Week 13 window if Fort Worth loses or Mexico City wins. Then Mexico City would get that South Division title. We'll talk about that in more detail later on. At 9 p.m., we've got Florida at Vancouver. Obviously, Florida, they're in the lead in the East. Mm-hmm. They want to try to maintain that lead. Vancouver, pretty much mathematically eliminated, but I don't think they're completely out yet.
They're out.
But they're still going to be playing hard. They're not giving up. Ethan Muslin and Ramos Lynn. Oh, I forgot. Bossier City, Mexico City. Colin Northrup and Rick Northrup back in the booth. Finally,
you got the Rick meter for that game. Down in Mexico.
Yeah, he better be pegged in Mexico City the whole game, or Rick and I are gonna have a conversation. Motor City at Arizona. We've got Chris Curtis and Brett Solberg at 9:15 p.m. That's our Saturday slot. On Sunday, 6:30, we get things kicked back off. Chicago at Albuquerque. Cameron Duty and Alex West on the call. At 6:45, we've got Denver at Los Angeles. Tyler Falk and Brett Solberg got those two back in the booth together.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time. One of the best pairings that we've got. At 9 p.m., Lexington, Indianapolis, Ethan Muslin, Rochelle Colston on the call. And then 9:15 p.m., this is one that I've had circled ever since you guaranteed victory. You said Nashville is going to come to the Swamps, and you're just going to show that they're the pretenders that you say they are. Okay. Well,
yes.
Sunday's the day.
I still stand behind that.
Sunday is the day. Nashville at Louisiana, Tyler Falk, and gave you double M7. Mickey Malillo is the analyst on that call. And Monday Night Spectacular on October 7th, 8:15 p.m. We've got Baltimore at DC with Cam and Charles. So crazy set of games that we got coming up this week.
Yeah, I think it's all good. It's really stuff that's going to establish who is going to separate themselves from one another here. Like I said, the South Division could be one. The East Division gets a little bit jumbled up.
Yep.
By the end of tonight. So, look, and I got my guaranteed victory coming on Sunday. Late night on Sunday. So, we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah. People noticing my arm is glistening. It's can I say it's P. Diddy's baby oil, or is it too soon to?
No, you can say that.
Yeah, it's Sanoderm. It's covering a fresh tattoo. I got my DeLorean colored in. Anyway, back to the show. I've still got 4 games to break down, and kickoff is only 21 minutes away. All right, so yeah, see that set Fox High went off. He's like, "Whoa, did he?" Yeah, that's right. All right, let's start with talking about one of the teams that's outside the playoffs looking in. We've got Lexington at Indianapolis. Both teams have been super up and down all season. Neither has won more than 2 games in a row. Neither has lost more than 2 games in a row. At 5-5, Lexington cannot win the Central Division, so they're likely going to need to win out and get some help with some tiebreakers. And technically, Indianapolis, they're the 6-loss team that I was going to mention, that technically they have not been eliminated either, even with 6 losses. And they do have the 3rd best strength of victory in the league, so they have that tiebreaker on their side. The best they can do, though, is 6-6. And you and I both know darn well from personal experience, you can be 7-5 and not make the playoffs. Right. So a tall hill to climb for both of these teams. Let's start with Lexington.
Look, Lexington, as everybody knows who watched the show, during that large bye week we had, except for one matchup, Lexington was one of my pretenders a few weeks back, right? But has since then been grinding and have won 2 of their last 3 games, losing a very close game to Minnesota last week, which was mildly impressive to me because it's just
so
they're just so like weird and nobody knows where they stand, right? Their offense has struggled to move the ball this season. There's no secret to that, but they rank 4th to last in yards per game in the SFL, and they're also near the bottom in converting those third downs into first downs. They especially struggle versus teams currently in the playoff picture. Right. So they will have to get running back Phoenix Jones and wide receiver Gabriel Manning hot in these last 2 games to produce yards to help keep themselves in the playoff hunt with these other teams. Otherwise, they're gonna end up falling back and falling out of the playoff picture altogether.
Yeah, they need their defense to kind of keep them going here. They've got a sneaky good defense. It's really where they are above average at minimum, and why they're still in the playoff picture through 10 games.
Look, and it's all led by the boogeyman himself,
Mr. Roberto,
linebacker Tony Roberto, right? Who leads their team in sacks and TFLs. He's 3rd in the SFL in tackles for losses. The team. And he also leads the team and tackles for losses, and he leads the SFL in tackles for losses. So that's just kind of like where it's kind of at that right. As a collectively as a team that lead in TFLs. Look, they are the 5th best in third down, allowing for only 46% conversions. They have been very good this season at minimizing the points. To give their offense the best chance possible to put up points. And they've been grinding and making sure that they kind of do that. So, look, if their offense can match their defense and how they're kind of playing, if they can start to kind of, equal what the defense is doing, I do think they have ability to make the playoffs.
They very well might, and it will start with that game on Sunday. Indianapolis, on the other hand, I remember at the beginning of the season was talking about where we saw some teams going. Indianapolis was one of those teams that you thought, listen, this team's going to make some strides. They're going to make the playoffs, and I know they've kind of let you down.
Oh, yeah, they let me down tremendously, right? So Indy is the model of inconsistency in season 23 amongst every team in the league, right? The only thing they have been consistent at is being consistently inconsistent, right? So, and it's just weird, which is not a good thing. Offensively, they are among the league's worst in turning the ball over. And they look like they're stuck in mud a lot of times, right? Like they look like when they start looking like they get down there and then all of a sudden they just stop as if they hit some sort of quicksand or something like that, right? They have the talent, but there's just something missing to just make it all click together, right? And defensively, they haven't been great either. Right. They allow 25 points a game, nearly 350 yards a game, which is second to last in the league. Right, of offense their opponents in each game. So, look, if you can't stop the opponent from going up and down the field, you will struggle, right? Look, and they need more good consistency. They don't need consistently because they are consistently inconsistent.
Right.
They just need that good consistency. Like, hey, look, we need to play like we know how to play and everything else. Now, I don't think they're going to have a chance at the playoffs in general, even though that they have actually got themselves in a situation where if they win their 2 games, they have a possibility. But I think their season done. Your 6 losses, you're done, I think.
It's a tough hill for both of these teams to climb. Starts on Sunday. Whoever loses, I would say, is finished.
Right.
So the season kind of comes down to this here in week 13. All right, let's talk about Chicago at Albuquerque, another game happening on Sunday night. Albuquerque would still have a playoff spot if the playoffs started today, but barely. They're number 12, if you remember seeing that up on the graphic. They need to keep winning if they're going to stay in that picture. At 3-7 record-wise, you would think that Albuquerque would have this one in the bag, with Chicago being 3-7, I should say, but not so. Chicago is cooking right now. They're on a 2-game win streak, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but after losing 7, you've won 2 in a row. You're doing stuff. You've won 3 of your last 5 down there or up there, over there, whichever way it is in Chicago. Although Albuquerque has never lost at home. They've also never won on the road either. Like they've got 5 home games where they've won. They've got 4 road games that they lost. It's just kind of crazy. They are at home this week. So Albuquerque, they can't clinch with a win, but it'll certainly help. And Chicago technically has not been eliminated either, even with 7 losses. They need they need to win out. They need a whole bunch of things in the SFL to happen. They actually need the stars to align a certain way, and a unicorn has to come down and kiss Ty Patak on the forehead. Those are the things that all need to happen. I don't think Chicago's going to make it in, but they'd have to win this one. And let's talk about Chicago's offense.
In Chicago, I feel like they have been the most volatile team in the SFL right now, right? In the Chicago not bomb pops, right?
Oh, they won last week.
Boy, let me tell you, but boy, have they been entertaining to watch, right? Look, it's all been led by their superstar quarterback, Tyler Tack. Yeah, I said it because he's blazing a trail for mobile quarterbacks in the SFL, right? And the last 2 weeks, his offensive output has been more than the entire opposing offense.
Yeah.
The last 2 weeks, him alone, he has done it by passing the ball and rushing the ball. The last 2 games, he's rushed for 130 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns, has thrown for 641 yards with 5 touchdowns on top of that.
Great numbers.
He has been unstoppable these last 2 games, and they, I'm sure, plan to ruin teams' playoff hopes.
Yep.
Look, and they are extremely dangerous right now. I would not want to. I really wouldn't want to play Chicago right now.
The defense hasn't been as good as that offense has been the last 2 games, but they have held their own.
Yeah, look, and they forced 5 turnovers in the last 2 games, which has given their superstar quarterback, and his offense more chances to put up points, right? So, look, and like I said before, I'm glad the Rebs don't have to play them, and the teams that do should be afraid because Chicago is returning to their bomb pop type form. So, look, if I'm Albuquerque, I'm nervous going this game, even though I'm playing at home.
I'm glad the Aztecs played Chicago right before that.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
They just gotten their first win, and then we're like, we're just going to give you lost 7. Now go ahead and take off with things. But Albuquerque, let's hear what you have to say about Albuquerque, because if I reading correctly, I think you got a little bit of an unpopular opinion.
It's going to be an unpopular opinion for a lot of people to hear, but I don't think the Adams are what most think that they are.
Okay.
Yes, they've won 3 games in a row, but something is just amiss with them, right? Look, because it goes back to what you said. They can win at home, but they can't win on the road.
Yeah, it's weird.
And it's something that's just kind of weird right there. Look, I know they have probably, the quarterback with the best touchdown to interception ratio in Cyrus Jive.
Yep.
But they just don't pass any kind of an eye test for me.
Okay.
If you can't play on the road, I don't know why you can win at home, because look at their record right now. If they win every game at home and all the way, you end up at 6-6.
Yeah,
that's doing nothing. You're out of the playoffs at that point, right? So look, but to give them credit, look, they do rank in the top 10 in most offensive categories, and the reason they are where they are is their ability to limit the turnovers in the most recent weeks. Defensively, I believe is their real strength, right? They have been very opportunistic when they're able to force turnovers, with the defense scoring 5 touchdowns themselves over the course of the season thus far. This game versus Chicago, it's going to be a huge test for them, because we know how strong Chicago has been the last 2 weeks. And this is going to be, I think, a really true test for them at home if they can beat Chicago, because we know how Chicago's been doing stuff with type attack. And if he keeps doing that stuff, they're going to struggle, this Sunday whenever they play them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Chicago on the upswing, Albuquerque still with the question mark of who they might actually be. If we can get to $25 in super chats during this show, I will have a bomb pop delivered, and you'll have to deep throat the thing. Anyway, continuing on.
Do I have a say in this?
You do not. No, Skippy declared it to be so. All right, so let's talk about Fort Worth at Canton. A couple of powerhouse teams. Now, we've talked about some teams either on the outside or right on the fringe. Let's talk about some teams. They are currently in that playoff hunt. These are powerhouses. Fort Worth, I'm pretty sure that I'm in a fight with Hacker. I didn't mean to, but listen, so mistakes were made. All right. I was watching Eddie Gage and Brett Solberg's show, The Streets Are Talking, right? And I was talking in the chat, and sometimes
you're talking with the streets.
Well, I was talking, and I may have said some things about Hacker specifically, and come to find out he was there in the chat too. And then he said I have a weak ass mustache, and that was offensive.
Oh,
yeah. So pretty sure we're in a fight.
We know it's Hacker's rocking the handlebar mustache.
He's
right
got
now.
a nice mustache.
Yeah.
I got So I think we're in a fight. But anyway, listen, I talk so much smack about Fort Worth. They're my biggest competitor, or biggest rival, I should say. They're right up there, still right on my heels. I'm trying to win the South again for the Aztecs for the first time in a few seasons. They're not making it easy.
Look, I tell you what, you think you got something going on with them? Like we've never beat them. We played them like 6 times.
It's hard to beat this team, and they're going to be looking to make a victory over Canton. on Saturday. So it's the number 6 team in playoff seeding. They're looking good for that playoff spot. They'll need to win out and have Mexico City lose out if they want to clinch the South. Number 3, Canton, they have clinched a playoff spot. So the first team that we've talked about, that they are in the playoffs. They have not clinched the North yet, though. Baltimore is only a game back, and Baltimore, if you remember in week 1, beat Canton. So they have that head-to-head tiebreaker over Canton. If Canton wins out, they will win the North. If they lose even one more game and Baltimore wins out, then Baltimore will win the North. So interesting to see how that one's going to play out. We'll start with Hackers Fort Worth Toros.
Look, and they are winners of 4 straight. They has seemingly gotten back to how they started the season, right? They rattled off a bunch of wins in dominant fashion, and they had that 3-game lull where they lost, and now they're back to 4 straight wins. Quarterback Marcus Dunno has been one of the most accurate quarterbacks over the past 4 games with a completion percentage of 66% and has only thrown 2 interceptions over those same 4 games. The run game hasn't been great, but they have protected the ball very well and have been putting up the necessary points to win games. Still in contention for the South if your Mexico City Aztecs stumble a little bit, right? So we're gonna see.
Not happening. I greased up that ball, totally covered it in taco grease, and turned on some big fans that we have in the stadium. Blew that thing wide left. Sorry, Demond. You ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Isn't that what the saying is? By the way, the Lake Man says I have a nice mustache. Yes. I knew we liked that guy. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about that defense.
That guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The defense is a huge reason why they've won 4 straight games. You know, they're forcing all sorts of turnovers and such. Talk about that for
So four turnovers that they forced over these last 4 games. And like I said, it put their offense in a really good position, right, to put points on the board. The defensive front, it's also consistently put pressure on the opposing quarterback with 12 sacks over those 4 games as well. With the defensive end, Jerry Degan, who is 2nd in the league in sacks, leading this team with 10 sacks on the season. Look, they know how to apply pressure to force the opposing offense into mistakes. That's what they do, right? And they capitalize on top of it. They are also number 2 in 3rd down defense. Not to mention, they also have the number 1 overall defense in the SFL. So their defense is extremely dominant. We got a really good look at it when they came in Louisiana. I think it was in Louisiana. I can't remember where they beat the crap out of us, but they beat the crap out of us by 2 scores, right? Just kind of shut our run game down and we couldn't do anything. So they're looking really good right now, and they're playing a team like Canton right when I feel like that they're peaking right now. Yeah. And I think they got an opportunity to take them down.
They absolutely do. So, Canton, they kind of took it personal, I think, when they had the loss to Nashville.
I guess. But look, Nashville went down in there and actually put it to them, right? So Nashville would look, and they didn't look good offensively at all, right? I had questions, for a while now about their quarterback, Scar Patterson, in terms of how he might perform if the weight of the offense was put on his shoulders and his shoulders alone, right? And he did not perform well whatsoever. The run game was shut down by, with Robert Johnson and Logan Lee. They only got 71 yards collectively, right? And Scar Patterson threw 6 interceptions last week. 6 interceptions. That's almost half of what he has gotten now for the entire season. So look, and they average, Logan Lee and Robert Johnson average nearly 3 times the amount of 71 yards on a gamely basis on average, right? Which forced, when you get shut down, it forced Scar Patterson to throw the ball 48 times. 6 of those, like I said earlier, was interceptions. It's not a situation they want to find themselves in as they approach the playoffs, especially playing the type of defense that Fort Worth has.
Yeah, it's always been something that you've talked about. If you force Canton to have to throw, that's where their weakness is. It's not even a personal shot at Scar Patterson himself. It's just their game is predicated by the run. And if you take that away and you make them into somebody that they're not, that's what ends up happening.
Right.
And, the defense, nothing negative to say about the defense, but they just haven't been as dominant as they were last season.
Yeah, look, but they are still among the SFL's best, right? The defense leads the SFL in sacks with 30, led by who I think is a defensive player of the season and linebacker Kevin Brackett, who leads their defense in sacks, which has forced the opponents into mistakes. And as a top-tier defense across the board, they always capitalize on that, on those mistakes you always give them. So, look, but they are extremely tough to score against as well. So this is going to be one of those slobber knocker type battles we're going to see, for the first game on Saturday.
Schlobberknocker type battle on Saturday. There you have it. Should turn that into some sort of hashtag. Hashtag Schlobberknocker. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. One more game. Let's break down one more game. We got 5 minutes to kick off. Charleston at Atlanta. That's the game that we've got coming up. 2 of the 6 and 4 teams from the East. You got number 11 Charleston. They had a chance to strike a serious blow to the other East teams against Carolina last week. They lost. Now they're 1 and 2 in the division. They've got this divisional game against Atlanta. It's a critical game that if they can get this win, it would give them another meaningful tiebreaker in that division, and against other teams that would be 7 and 5. They also have beat Nashville, so they have that as a potential tiebreaker. Let's talk about number 8 Atlanta. Fox Highwind, listen, we've all seen your messages in every possible chat that they could have been posted in. Atlanta, they've been the Rodney Dangerfield of the SFL this season, at least according to Fox. They have gotten no respect.
I don't know about that.
That's what I'm hearing. They've gotten no respect. Listen, they certainly command
We've
some respect.
said that they've been the best 4-win team, the best 5-win team. And
he wasn't listening to us.
They're very likely the best 6-win team right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I think everybody counted them out from the beginning as they saw their roster and they're like, they just don't have as many players as these other teams. They've got gaps on that roster. And then they came out losing some games. They played Mexico City. We put up over 50 on them. I mean, there was things that happened along the way that made people have their opinion that they had, But that being said, they've won 2 in a row. They've gone 5 and 2 in their last 7 games. Their strength of defeat is number 2 in the league. The teams that they've lost to: Minnesota, Fort Worth, Mexico City, Arizona. 3 of those teams are in the top 4. Not Fort Worth. They're not in the top 4, but the other 3 are in the top 4. They've beaten Carolina. They've beaten Nashville. They want to win this one and then beat Florida to sweep the division and potentially win the East. The winner of this game could technically clinch playoffs this week if Lexington, D.C., and Louisiana lose. So let's talk about what's going to happen. Break down Charleston offense, defense. What do they got going on?
I got to say, Louisiana's not going to lose, so they can forget about clinching anything. So now Charleston, right? So this team is a team that just has this grinded out type mentality, right?
Yeah.
They don't care, how they get the W, just as long as they get that W at the end of the day.
Right.
They have done that more times than not this season. Look, it impresses me that nothing about this team is overly impressive, yet they find ways to win. Look, they are not. Look, they don't have any real superstars. We know we love the Lake Man and what he brings to the table for the team, right? But there's very few people that are just almost like SFL household names here.
Sure.
So look, and they have just straight up ballers on the squad. They come, I swear, it's like these. People just come to work, they just beast it out all day and do the best they can and then just go home to their families. This is what they do.
Yep.
The offense is number 8 in scoring, along with the defense having the 8th best scoring defense. The defense and special teams for this squad has also contributed to 6 touchdowns themselves to help this squad get its 6th win. So they're going to still have to continue to keep doing what they're doing. Love. Just come to work, grind out, do the best job you can, and it's giving them this 6-4 record where they sit now at a chance of getting into the playoffs.
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk about Atlanta. I know you and I share this opinion. Fox, listen. Ready? You ready for this? Our opinion is that Atlanta is one of, if not the best 6-win team in the SFL right now. Talk about Atlanta.
Yeah, and having won 4 of their last 5 games as well. That beating Carolina 6-4 and Nashville 6-4. The last 2 games that they played. These are 2 really good squads, right? That are actually kind of getting themselves up there. Both teams, even though those 2 teams, I might add, are in my pretender list from a few weeks back, but they're kind of still doing their thing.
Yeah.
Both teams are in the playoffs if the season ended today. Quarterback Bryant Dynasty has had a great season thus far. In their last 4 wins, Dynasty has only thrown one interception, just 1. When you can limit turnovers like that, it increases your chances of winning, and the Swarm have done just that, right? So they have made the plays offensively when they needed to make them to keep themselves in the win column. So look, they just find a way to win. They're not doing it overly flashy. They're just finding a way to win.
They're having trouble rushing the passer on defense, though. But for a team that's had those struggles, they still have been a pretty good unit overall.
Yeah, and they've been really good. Look, and the defense is it has veteran leadership with Grandpa Shine leading this defense as well. So look, and much like the offense, they have made the plays when they needed to be played, right, to get them to 6 wins through, like the first 10 games that they have. So when you have veteran leadership, a guy who's won a championship, has been there and done that, he's actually, having this. And plus, they have a lot of veterans on this team as well on the defensive end. So I think that I think they're gonna be just fine. So we'll see. All
right. Our time is up. We'll make some picks real quick. We'll get to the game. Currently, back to 500, 14-14. You're still beating me. 19-9 on the season. Crazy. Nice. There's still 19 games left that we're going to be making picks on, though. So this could still flip. I could still win. Last week, you picked Fort Worth, Charleston, and Indianapolis. I picked Bossier City, Carolina, and Chicago. And, of course, Fort Worth, Carolina, and Chicago got the dub. Let's make our picks this week. Lexington, Indianapolis, who do you got?
You know what? I'm just a gluttony for punishment, I guess. I just want to get beat up by Indy, but I feel like they're going to put it together this week. I say that every time I pick them. They're going to have it. They're going to beat Lexington and make sure Lexington is put away and beat the pretenders that I say they were.
So I'm going to go with Lexington because every time you pick Indianapolis, they lose. So it's not like Carolina where you talk bad about them and they win. It's the literal opposite. You pick them to win, they will lose. Now, seriously, Lexington, I think these two teams are very evenly matched. But Lexington, just the way that, the season is on the line for them right now, I think they've got more to play for. They've got Gabriel Manning. They've got Phoenix Jones. I think they're going to find a way to get it done on the road and get the win. Chicago at Albuquerque. Who do you got?
I'm taking the Chicago, not bomb tops, whatever you want to call them. Why? Because I just think they're too much on a roll, and I think Albuquerque's finally gets themselves brought back to earth with their very first home loss this week because Type Attack's going to be too much.
Ty, I love you, man, but got to go with Albuquerque this week because you didn't bring back the bomb pop colors. I told you what to do. I said you got that bomb pop spirit in you, but you used it all up last week. Albuquerque, I don't know why they always win at home and why they always lose on the road. Bottom line, they do. They're at home. I think Albuquerque gets the win. Fort Worth at Canton.
Look, I know I shouldn't be picking a team that's always beating the crap out of my team, but I'm going with Fort Worth, right? I think they go in there. They're too much on a roll. Canton's kind of reeling right now, and I think Fort Worth has the formula, seeing how what Nashville did to Canton last week. They go into Canton, and they beat Canton.
I'm going to go with Canton because the same reason that I picked Bossier City last week. It's called wishful thinking. I need them to win so that I can win the South, or I'll just try to beat Bossier City myself this week. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm going with Canton. I think, Canton's just too tough to beat at home. I'm honestly even still surprised to see that they have 2 losses on the season. They're just such a rock solid team with that run game, and their defense is crazy good. I think it'll be too much for Fort Worth to beat this week. By the way, Grandpa Shine's in the chat. He saw he heard your comments and me just doubling down on it. And he thinks it's kind of crazy, but facts be facts.
He's old, man.
All right, Charleston and Atlanta starts in just a few minutes. We will see you there. Who's going to win that one? How's it going to go down? As Matt Willson would always say, there's only one way to find out, and that's on the field. We'll get down to the field in just a few minutes. Get this one started. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.